So when I first got it started with my agency, I had dozens and dozens and dozens of open recs to work on. I closed a lot of contracts, and I had a pipeline that was worth, it was in the millions of dollars. And a pipeline doesn't always tell the full story, because I've had better moments with my business that produced more revenue. And to be honest, when I'm talking to other recruiters that are looking to scale up, there's one of two people that I'm going to talk to. Really quick, if you like these videos, if you're a recruiter, be sure to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and go join the free Facebook group. A ton of recruiters helping each other out. I'm always releasing free resources. Come join us. It's going to be that person that says, I've driven X amount of revenue. I need to drive this much more, and I need to also figure out ways to make sure that there's less of a risk when I'm doing my work. And then there's the recruiters that talk about how big their pipeline is. They've closed all these contracts. I have $4 million worth of roles to work on. And that's all good. It's good to have that skill to close contracts. But the whole problem is a lot of those instances, you ask them, how much revenue have you driven over the past 2 months? And they'll say something like $7,000 or $10,000, which is fine. But to do that much work for that much of a return, there's something wrong there. And here's the big problem with that is a lot of times they'll have something like 80, we'll just say 80 roles, something absurd to work on, and they're continuously closing these contracts. And a lot of these roles will be even just slightly different to just very different. And in order to make some money on those roles, you think about it, you work on role number 1, you put in 1 hour of work. We'll just say for the sake of this conversation that you find one candidate who is very good. The chances of them getting placed is just 1 to 1. There's only one role to place them in. So we'll just say there's a 10% chance of that candidate getting placed. And then he moves on or she moves on to the next role. And to work on all 80 roles, you now have to put in 80 hours of work and then cycle back. Instead, what everybody should be doing is working on 1, 2, or 3 very specific roles or very specific industry roles. So when you put in that 1 hour of work and you find that one great or good candidate, that they now have 5 options that you can send them to. And now instead of a 10% chance, there's a 50% chance of them getting placed. And that 1 hour of work has a very high likelihood of creating revenue for you and your business. And there's such a big snowball effect to this as well, because the people that take this approach, yes, they push away potential clients and short-term money in those roles that are outside of what they're working on. But in the long term, instead of working 80 hours, they work on the sourcing those roles for maybe 30. And then they start to build their sales process as well. They start to brand their entire recruiting agency as the one who finds Java engineers. And now everybody who they've talked to in their sales process remembers them as the Java engineer recruiters, right? And they'll start to circle back when that problem becomes very, very big for them and they need to find that engineer right now. They know that that's your focus. And I just talked about this on the podcast too. I made the analogy of that restaurant that is advertising, and they do everything under one roof. They do pizza, they do Chinese food, they do chicken, they do vegan. And you know, somebody might see that advertisement, and then somebody might see an advertisement for pizza, and then when it's time for them to throw a party with their family and they're in the mood for pizza, they're going to go to the pizza place. They're going to remember that place and circle back with them. And in the short term, it's going to be harder to fill up your client list. But as you continue to grow, at one point in time, you're going to be only working on 2 pipelines. You're only going to be sourcing for those 2 roles, maybe 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week. And that 20 to 30 hours of work is going to be extremely valuable because you're going to have 5 or 10 clients in the pipeline, and you're also going to have a sales process that has gotten a lot better. You're adding resources that say, hey, I have Java engineers, here are all my resources for people who are hiring Java engineers. And then you start to get into ads that target hiring managers for Java engineers. And this is such a difficult mistake that people often need to make, because when you get a client, and this happened to me, and you do all the math and you see, you know, one of my clients, they had 30 open roles or something like that. And I did the math and I was like, wow, most of these are like $30,000 placements. Imagine if I get 10. But the problem is I didn't build a business. I didn't build a one specific niche. I didn't build my pizza place that everybody in my network and everybody who I've touched from a sales perspective now knows me as. I'm now that restaurant that does everything. I'm very forgettable, and now I'm just constantly working 80 hours a week on all these different roles, and each hour that I work is not as valuable as that person who was building a niche. So just think about that. I know I've kind of beat a dead horse with this topic, but it just needs to be driven home. A pipeline doesn't always, most of the time, it doesn't tell any bit of a story of how much revenue is going to be driven. It's an indicator. It's an indicator, but it's not everything. But definitely something that you want. So go check out that free Facebook group, recruiterrocket.io. Get yourself listed there. A lot of free resources, and we'll see you next time.